Finding employment in a tight economy can be tough for anyone, but for people with disabilities, job hunting can be frustrating and futile.
I do not like to tell employers that I have a disability.
The rights of the disabled and the reality, straight ahead on Equal Time.
From San Jose State University and KTEH, you're watching Equal Time, exploring new issues each week, giving equal time to competing points of view.
Hello from San Jose State University, and welcome to this week's edition of Equal Time. I'm journalism professor Bob Rucker. With California's unemployment rate at a record high, the chances of finding a job are slim enough. But imagine you are a person with disabilities. Why should an employer choose you? You might be tempted to hide your disability, if you can. We'll meet people facing these questions, starting at a job fair here in San Jose. Here's journalism professor Diane Garazzi.
How long was it since the last time you applied?
Even before the job fair opens, the line outside is 100 deep.
For June. Oh, so if you are interested, you might be taking some free classes to do
The fair will last all afternoon at Work to Future, run by the San Jose Office of Economic Development. But people dressed in their interview best brave the heat, hoping to get a better edge on finding work. Once inside, job seekers register, take a number, and finally they make it into the inner sanctum, where employers wait. Damashita Washington is looking for work as an administrative assistant, but she says her chances may not be good.
For several reasons. One, I'm already African American, so that already gives me a stereotype in society. Not only that, I'm a female standing 6 feet 2 inches tall, and so I feel by having to tell someone, anyone, and an employer about my disability is frankly would be more discriminating for me.
Damashita has a specific learning disability that limits her reading skill. She says she's a good worker after someone trains her in person. Under the law, employers are forbidden to ask job applicants questions that focus on disabilities, and Damashita will not be volunteering any information.
I do not like to tell employers that I have a disability. If I were to tell them, I just feel that I'm going to end up being laid off.
She was laid off 2 weeks after revealing her disability to an employer, but she can't prove the reason, so instead of waging a legal battle, she's focusing on finding work.
Looking at retail stores, I asked friends, former coworkers, family members, anybody. I'm out there looking all the time.
Like Damashita, Ariana Ruzovich has a hidden disability. Looking at her, you wouldn't know she's legally blind.
The only way that people can really tell from what I've noticed is that the way my eyes move. What I have is called Stargardt's disease, and it affects my frontal vision. So I essentially don't have any frontal vision. So when I'm looking straight at something, I either can't see it at all or it's just so incredibly blurry that I can't make it out.
Ariana uses magnifiers and book readers to help her study at San Jose State University. She relies on her peripheral vision to get around. She won't be job hunting for a couple of years, but she has bad memories of the last try.
Because I would tell them in my interview that I was visually impaired and that it kind of made me do things a little bit slower at first, but I was really good at memorizing things, so I'd be able to, pick skills up fairly quickly. And then I just wouldn't get a job and somebody else would. And at the same time, I guess in an interview I could just say, I could just not mention it and then spring it on them later. But I don't know, I just never thought that that was the right thing to do.
But doing the right thing can have consequences, as De Anza College student Kim Hing also discovered.
I have Asperger's syndrome, major depression, anxiety.
Kim says she told her employer about her struggle with mental illness and Asperger's, a mild variant of autistic disorder. She works part-time as a lifeguard at another pool off campus, and she says she thought describing her disabilities would create understanding among coworkers.
If you look at me, you're not going to immediately know that I have a disability. It doesn't mean it's not there. It's just that your expectations of me are maybe not going to be in line with what I am capable of.
Kim's capable of winning handfuls of medals at the Special Olympics.
I got a gold for the 100-meter sprint, and I got a gold for the 200-meter sprint, and I got a gold for running long jump.
But she says a co-worker used that against her.
Made false accusations about me, and she was telling other people that she knew that I'm special, and obviously that is a direct reference to the fact that I'm a Special Olympics athlete. This basketball tournament, it's me.
It can be tough for people with disabilities to prove they've been harassed on the job. Kim says she's fallen victim twice in 7 months, but can't prove it.
So you run into things where it's what you say versus what the other person says. And since a lot of things happen without witnesses, they can say whatever they want. And if your witnesses are afraid that they're going to experience some kind of retaliation or they may lose their job, they're not going to necessarily say anything.
Kim says how she's been treated is unfair and illegal. Harassment is a form of employment discrimination that violates the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, the law that brought about blue curbs and a whole host of guaranteed rights for the disabled. But some people with disabilities say the law is far from complete in stopping discrimination.
They'd have this ADA, and it looks good, and I think it was just, a nice political thing. Oh, look what we're doing for people with disabilities. But there's no meat in it, there's no teeth in it.
Every time that I said I was visually impaired, I could never get a job.
All they're basically going to do is kind of refer you different links to get jobs, which those links I already have. They don't really help you get the work.
Only one of the people we met will get government help in finding a job. Take a guess at who qualifies.
When we come back, we'll give you the answer, and we'll explore the other side of equal time. We'll show you what the government is doing to try and help people with disabilities find jobs. A San Jose Assemblyman has come up with a plan.
I think you'll find that they will be great employees.
And we'll meet some people with disabilities on the job and speak with their employers. Welcome back. Here in California, the Department of Rehabilitation administers the largest vocational rehabilitation program in the country. It helps people with disabilities find jobs, but it can't serve everyone. Earlier, we met 3 people. Damashita has a learning disability. Kim has mental illness and Asperger's disorder. But only Ariana, who is legally blind, is counting on government help.
From my understanding, the Department of Rehabilitation is willing to help me find a job, so as long as they're with me the whole time, then I don't think it'll be a problem. At least I hope.
As a communications major and a theater minor, Ariana Rusevich is thinking about script writing as a career. As a legally blind person, she fell into a top priority with the California Department of Rehabilitation. The agency serves people who have what are considered to be the most significant disabilities first.
And they pay for all of my tuition and books and supplies and things like that sort. But they, what I've been told is that when I'm about to graduate, they also help me get on a career path, and they help me to find a career and be able to be secured in a job.
The DOR is also expected to help Soledad Rosas find work.
I'm ready to move to the professional field when I need to. So I think that the issue that I'm going to work on from now on is just building the culture. And getting people to know that people with disabilities can and have the right to succeed. Getting people to know that Soledad Rosas is not just a person with a disability. that Soledad Rosas has dreams, aspirations, goals.
Soledad's goal is to have her own radio show, and she doesn't think cerebral palsy will keep her from realizing her dream. She's close to it, interning at a San Jose radio station.
94.5 KB. I'm Jonah Dennis Hamilton. If only you could see the sun a little. Eagles Tequila Sunrise on KB.
Is this the first time you've hired somebody with a disability?
I've been in different positions in radio as a program director and such, and I've worked with people with disabilities, wheelchairs and such before, and it's always fine. I've never had an intern personally though, so it's a whole new experience for me. So I'm just kind of saying, here's a little job, here's another job, and everything I've given her, she's done wonderfully with.
Little things, but things that indeed make me feel nice.
The internship was arranged through a professor at San Jose State. Soledad's close to graduation, and when the time comes, she hopes she'll be one of the 14,000 people who find jobs every year through the Department of Rehabilitation. But having help of the DOR is no guarantee of finding a job. This last quarter, the agency's success rate placing applicants was only 56%.
You know, as far as I continue to love the job, I honestly believe that a door will open.
To get to the radio station, Soledad rides her wheelchair about a mile each way from her dorm on campus. But just getting to work can be beneficial, according to Florine Poyadou, founder of Parents Helping Parents, an agency helping families with disabilities.
Employment is just so good for so many reasons. For everyone, but when I think of the individuals with special needs, besides boosting their esteem, and also it can help with their health, they're out, they're active, they're not going to be depressed, they're interacting with people. If they're walking to work, which oftentimes they are, it's going to help keep their physical self strong.
Florine's son, Dean, has Down syndrome, and so does his wife, Kim. The couple have been married for 9 years, live in Santa Maria, and have jobs in food service. What's your favorite part of work?
Everything, that's right.
Dean works at a Carl's Jr. restaurant. He's received job training and search assistance from the DOR in the past.
This kind of motivation for me, when I see his smile, they shine my day. So I'm start working with everybody, say, oh, you know, he can smile, everybody can smile. The customer looking for him all the time, so it's a great experience for us to work with them.
For every dollar spent on vocational rehabilitation to help people with disabilities find jobs, there's an $8 return.
A lot of these people want to be employed and take them off the public assistance and make them taxpayers, and they all want to have that independence just like everybody else. So I've introduced legislation that says the State Department of Developmental Services shall work with the Department of Rehabilitation and try to find jobs for people with developmental disabilities.
The bill lays the groundwork for more ambitious programs when the state has money to spend. But even during this budget crisis, the Department of Rehabilitation continues to serve clients, albeit in between furloughs.
And that's because most of the money comes from special funds from the federal government to provide the services for people with disabilities. And we're really lucky that that's the case.
You ready? You ready?
Back at Work to Future, the one-stop career center in San Jose where we started out, managers have ideas about why some employers are reluctant to hire people with disabilities.
There's fear, of course, when you're working with someone that might not be able to do the work as you see them being able to do the work.
I think for a smaller business, that may be a hesitation on their part to hire someone because they will have to spend money for accommodations, which in this economy they may not have at this point.
As you can see, I'm already struggling to open the door.
I know all larger companies, City of San Jose included, definitely make the accommodations for people with disabilities, but for a small business it may be much more difficult.
Question: if you had a disability, would you tell a prospective employer up front, or would you try to keep it to yourself? What's ethical? What's legal? When we come back, we'll sit down with experts in search of answers. Stay with us. Well, welcome back to Equal Time. Our focus, employing people with disabilities. For our discussion, we're joined by Maria Nikolakoutis, Executive Director of Trans Access, a nonprofit agency providing computer access, technology, assessment, and training for people with disabilities. Robin Selak is Faculty Coordinator of the Disabilities Support Program at Evergreen Valley College in San Jose. She's also a disability rights activist. Earlier, we met two people with disabilities. Damashita Washington. She lives in San Jose and is studying for her AA degree in business while working temporary jobs. Kim Hing is a graduate of Smith College. She's now studying filmmaking and environmental studies and science at De Anza and is a peer mentor for the Department of Mental Health. And Marcy Mitchell is a senior trial attorney in the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Now, she has litigated cases alleging discrimination, including those based on disability. We thank you all for joining us today, and let's get started with our discussion. We have double-digit unemployment, and many times people with disabilities who are unemployed seem to just fall through the cracks. Damashita, let's go back to you. Your story was very poignant earlier in the program. What does it feel like to fall through that crack?
It doesn't feel good at all. It's really bad. Usually I get really down in certain instances. Some days I have good days and some days I have bad days, but I still pick myself right back up and I get right back up there and keep on moving. I think that's what has enabled me to keep afloat right now with this economy is just getting various temp jobs through wherever I can. Whether that's through a staffing agency or finding the temp job on my own by taking a test to go work for a county, just for the county, even if it's like for 2 months, I'm doing something to keep my skills up, to make sure I don't lose those skills that I've gained so far.
And that must be the important thing. I would think all of you would join in now and tell us your thoughts. The important thing is to keep your skills set up and also keep your energy up and not give up.
It is important, and I think that you have a really good strategy. So really, a lot of folks right now, one of the things that Trans Access does besides the assistive technologies, we actually do employment services as well. And that's one of the things that we're telling people, please don't stop. Finding a job is your full-time job, and that's what you're doing. But I think one of the important things too is we're focusing on the economy now, the unemployment now. The bottom line is, even when the economy gets better and everybody else is going to get employed, persons with disabilities still are not going to see the rise in employment. Exactly. And we have to keep that in mind. We have to continue to work on that. Persons with disabilities will not get the bump that everybody else is going to get when the economy gets better.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think that going back to what you were saying, keeping your skills up really emphasizes the point that people with disabilities are qualified individuals with disabilities. They're able to perform the work, and it's a benefit to employers to hire people with disabilities who do have those qualifications. And we saw in the clip that some employers are fearful of the cost of accommodating somebody, but by and large, most accommodations are very inexpensive, and the law has built in that an employer doesn't need to provide an accommodation that's going to bankrupt that employer. So, it's a win-win situation for everyone involved, and once we demystify the notion of hiring people with disabilities, then I think that more and more people with disabilities will get to be employed.
I agree, but I also think the employer should ask what kind of accommodations that person is going to need before they say that they just can't do it. Because for me, I don't need a bunch of accommodations. I need access to a computer to be able to utilize the spell checker and things like that to look over my documents versus writing the information. Sometimes I may just need a tape recorder, depending on if that company allows it, but it's not all the time. So basically, my learning disability doesn't affect me a whole lot in the working environment. It more affects me in the academic environment. But even then, they shouldn't just say, okay, well, we can't hire you because you have a disability because we can't afford your accommodations. They don't know what I need. They didn't ask me.
Well, I think a lot of times it has to do with fear. And they don't know what to expect. And so that's the biggest problem. It's the stigma associated with people with disabilities, especially the disabilities you can't see.
Right.
Those are the ones that I think people are more fearful about because they don't understand them. If they see somebody in a wheelchair, they kind of get it. You know, maybe I'll have to, you know, have adaptive software or something like that. But when it's a invisible disability, I think that they're very fearful. And I think you are probably right in not having to, you know, tell people up front. You know, you might want to wait a while, or if you end up needing an accommodation, that's when you bring it up, because sometimes you don't need any. I experienced Demashita in our own program. She actually worked for a while in our program through financial aid, and she was wonderful. And we did not have to pay any money at all for any accommodations that she needed. We just needed to be aware of some things at first. And that goes with other people in our department that we hire. We have several people with disabilities, and not one has ever cost us any money.
But so, Kim, you mentioned earlier that in your piece that once you get the job, there can be problems on the job. You've had that experience. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, you know, once I went undiagnosed for, you know, a very long time, because, you know, like Asperger's wasn't a diagnosis until 1994. So, you know, as an adult, it's pretty much considered a children's thing. And so, like, well, yeah, but, you know, I was a child at one point, and it doesn't just go away. So, with Asperger's, you have a hard time with communication or like office politics. I'm not going to figure it out. You have to explain it to me. It's not going to be obvious. So after I got my job at the Y, you know, I told people, okay, look, I have Asperger's, and you know, I have trouble with stuff, and so I just was getting, you know, harassed by different people. So.
Now, Marcy, this sort of harassment you see every day in your work?
We do. We don't see harassment as much as an issue in the area of disabilities, although it does exist. I think that most frequently people are coming to the EEOC with issues related to accommodations. But certainly harassment is something that's covered by the Americans with Disabilities Act. And if somebody is experiencing comments or inappropriate behavior, or it could be images, based on a disability, then that's something that is covered, and that certainly we would like to hear about.
Because that's difficult to prove.
It can be difficult to prove, absolutely, as with all forms of discrimination. And there are ways to help somebody to arm themselves. One is to take notes, to keep a diary when something happens, but certainly the best way is to raise the issue with the employer immediately once somebody is beginning to harass you.
And what if you actually had done all that, took your notes, you know, kept your diary and things like that, and you still got laid off?
If you still got laid off, then that's the time to come and talk to somebody at the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and we can try to assist you. And certainly not every case results in a favorable resolution to the employee, but that's what we're there for. We're the federal agency that is required to enforce the Americans with Disabilities Act, and so we're there to listen and to try to help you to resolve the problem.
And the time remaining, let's broaden this out a little bit, and I'll ask Maria to jump in on this one with me. Society's looking at this. People are watching this and they're going, well, we don't think a lot about this issue. You train people, you try to help people get prepared for the workplace. How do we get the public more aware?
You know, it's really a personal issue, and I think everybody here can attest to that, when you're an employer and when you're in the public, you don't really think about hiring or working with somebody with a disability until it becomes personal, either yourself or a family member or someone that you know. And then suddenly the entire world opens up, and then it becomes personal. And so I think really we can talk about laws, we can talk about policy, we can talk about training and school to career transition, but we really need to bring it down to the average person and make it personal and think about,
And this is something that I think all of us are working on, and we need to continue to work on, and shows like this hopefully really help. Think about if you're an employer, if you're a coworker, if you are a recruiter, what if you had a disability? What if your child, your mother, your father could not get a job because of a disability? And what is it that is holding you back from viewing this person as somebody who's qualified for the job solely because you fear they have a disability, or you think that they may not be able to do the job because of their disability? And if you make it personal, I think we can get over a lot of our barriers.
I agree. See, I also think that people have to understand, just because you have a disability, it doesn't mean you can't do anything. I mean, I graduated cum laude from Smith. Now, obviously, I have half a brain, so...
More than half a brain.
I really hate the fact that we're going to have to wrap this up at this point, because we're really talking about some very important topics. Thank you so much. I thought you were very forthcoming, and we appreciate it. And I want to let everyone know that we'll be following up on this issue and explore it here today, and we'll keep you in touch with the people involved. Now, we invite you to be a part of the process. All you need to do is log on to our website, equaltimetv.wordpress.com. And look for us again here as we give the other side and every side equal time. Take care.